Ms. Tu sits at a worn wooden table. Her gnarled hands carefully count a small stack of crumpled Vietnamese dong notes and a handful of coins. She meticulously smooths each note, stacks the coins with painstaking care. Her gaze drifts to a full, antique-looking piggy bank in the corner. A faint, almost imperceptible smile touches her lips as she adds the last few notes to a bundled pile of money. The small house, nestled deep in a bustling, sun-drenched Saigon alley, is more than just four walls. It's a living testament to time, struggle, and an unwavering spirit. Every crack in the ancient plaster, every faded photo on the wall tells a story. Sunlight, now a little brighter, dares to peek through the grimy window, illuminating dancing dust motes, tiny, sparkling specks in the humid air. Ms. Tu, her face a map of countless worries and quiet determination, meticulously mops the worn tile floor. She moves with a practiced slowness, her back slightly hunched, but her movements are purposeful, almost ritualistic. She hums a low, old folk tune, barely audible. Oh, this house, it's her sanctuary, her battlefield, her entire world. On a small, rickety shelf, nestled amongst a handful of religious trinkets and a chipped ceramic teacup, sits a solitary framed photograph. It's a slightly faded, somewhat awkwardly taken picture of a young man, barely in his early 20s, beaming. This is Nam 30s, her son. His smile in the photo is so bright, so full of youthful promise. Ms. Tu glances at it, a tender, almost longing sigh escaping her lips. Ah, her son. She finishes mopping, her breath coming in slight, tired puffs. She shuffles over to the photo. Her hand, gnarled and surprisingly gentle, reaches out to brush away an invisible speck of dust from the glass. Her eyes, usually so sharp and watchful, soften, holding a universe of unspoken love and immense hope. Another year older, my son. I miss you terribly. Oh, how time flies. She walks to the small, makeshift kitchen, a tiny space with a single gas burner. She prepares a simple breakfast, a bowl of instant noodles, maybe a fried egg. She eats slowly, deliberately, as if savoring every meager bite. Her thoughts are miles away, always with Nam. Her entire being truly revolves around him, a world apart. Nam's apartment is a study in stark contrast, sleek, minimalist, expensive. Designer clothes are casually tossed over a plush sofa. Electronic gadgets glitter on every surface. It's the kind of place you see in magazines, utterly devoid of warmth. Nam, looking surprisingly fresh despite the late night, steps out of his bedroom. He's dressed in a crisp, designer shirt, undoubtedly expensive. He glances at his phone. It's Ms. Tu calling again. He grimaces slightly. Seriously. He swipes the call away dismissively, a practiced, almost involuntary action. He's got places to be, people to see. He walks to his gleaming coffee machine, presses a button, waiting impatiently. He picks up a luxurious watch from the counter, its diamond bezel catching the light. He straps it on, admiring it for a moment, then grabs his car keys. Late again. Can't be bothered with old-fashioned calls. He heads for the door, leaving behind a half-eaten croissant and the lingering scent of expensive cologne. The contrast with his mother's humble breakfast is almost painful. The late afternoon sun spills through the small window, painting the dusty air in golden hues. Ms. Tu sits at her worn wooden table, a single, flickering fluorescent light already humming above her. Her spectacles are perched on her nose, and her brow is furrowed in intense concentration, but her lips curve into a soft, almost triumphant smile. Spread out before her, meticulously organized into neat stacks, is a small mountain of various currencies. Crisp USD bills intermingled with bundles of Vietnamese dong. Each stack is held by a tiny, stretched rubber band. This isn't just money, it's a lifetime of sacrifices, 1,000 scraped knees, 1,000,000 unspoken prayers. She takes a final, thick wad of dong notes and with trembling fingers, counts them one last time. She nods slowly, a deep, satisfied sigh escaping her. She then reaches for a small, well-worn calculator, its buttons faded from countless uses. Her fingers, though stiff with age, punch in the final figures. The display flashes a series of numbers. She squints, rereads it, then lets out a soft, joyful gasp. A tear, slow and deliberate, rolls down her cheek, but it's a tear of pure, unadulterated joy. Her hands instinctively press together in a gesture of profound gratitude. It's done. Oh, thank goodness, it's finally done. She carefully gathers all the money, placing it reverently into a sturdy, plain canvas bag that she usually uses for market trips. This bag today holds her entire universe. She then pulls out a small, crinkled piece of paper, a bank deposit slip. Her hands, still trembling slightly, meticulously fill in the details. Later, she's seen walking down the alley, the canvas bag clutched tightly to her chest. Her steps, usually slow and labored, seem to possess a newfound lightness, an almost youthful bounce. Her eyes, usually scanning for discarded items, are now fixed straight ahead, shining with an inner light. Neighbors nod and smile, accustomed to her quiet presence, unaware of the monumental weight and joy she carries. Ms. 2 stands patiently in line at a bustling bank. She looks slightly out of place amidst the crisp suits and hurried young professionals, but her resolve is unshakable. When her turn comes, she approaches the teller, a young, polite woman. Ms. 2 carefully unzips the canvas bag and places its contents on the counter. The teller's eyes widen just slightly at the sheer volume of cash. Good morning, ma'am. Deposit. Ms. 2 nods, a small, proud smile on her face. She pushes the deposit slip forward. Yes, dear, all of it, for my son, his future. The teller begins counting the money, feeding it into a machine. The rhythmic whirring of the counter fills the space between them. Ms. 2 watches, her gaze unwavering, a silent guardian over her life's work. Each whir is a testament to her perseverance. Finally, the teller pushes a completed deposit slip across the counter. It's all in, ma'am. Congratulations. That's quite a sum. Ms. 2 takes the slip, holding it as if it were the most precious jewel. Her smile broadens, a radiant glow illuminating her tired face. She feels a profound lightness, a release from decades of relentless effort. The burden is gone, replaced by pure, unadulterated joy. Ms. 2 is busy in her tiny kitchen. She's preparing a special meal, Nam's favorite dishes. The aroma of simmering broth and sautéing garlic fills the humble space. She carefully places a small, store-bought birthday cake on the worn wooden table. It's a simple cake, but to her, it signifies a world of dreams come true. She also meticulously wraps a small, simple package, perhaps a worn photograph of Nam as a child or a hand-knitted scarf, something sentimental that represents her love, not just her money. She reaches for her old flip phone again, her fingers fumbling slightly with excitement. She takes a deep breath, steeling herself. This call is different. This call carries the weight of a lifetime. Nam, my son, it's your birthday very soon. Please come home tonight. Let's have dinner. Mother has something truly, truly important to tell you. It's for you, my precious boy, for your future. She listens, her expression a mix of anticipation and hopeful vulnerability. What would you sacrifice for a dream so grand? Share your thoughts below. The small kitchen is filled with the comforting aroma of Nam's favorite dishes. Ms. Tu meticulously arranges plates on the table, her movements imbued with a quiet joy. The simple birthday cake sits proudly in the center, a beacon of her immense hope. She places the wrapped, sentimental gift next to it, a worn childhood drawing of Nam, perhaps carefully preserved. She glances at the old wall clock. 6 o'clock, she smiles. He'll be here any minute, 6:30. She walks to the window, peering into the dimming alley. A faint frown creases her brow. 7 o'clock. The food is getting cold. She gently covers the dishes. She sits down, then stands up, then walks back to the window. Her fingers nervously tap against the sill. The air in the room, once filled with anticipation, now feels heavy with waiting. 7:30. She picks up her flip phone, hesitates, then dials. Nam, my son, are you on your way? Mother made all your favorites. Mom, I told you, big meeting tonight. Ran later than expected. Look, I'm almost done, all right. Give me 30 more minutes. Promise, don't wait up. Ms. Tu's shoulders slump ever so slightly. She forces a weak smile. Of course, Khan, mother understands. Drive safe. She hangs up, the phone feeling heavy in her hand. Her gaze falls upon the small cake. The hopeful glow in her eyes dims, replaced by a familiar flicker of worry. She pulls her worn shawl tighter around her. The food is now truly cold, undisturbed on the table. The cake stands alone, its candles unlit. Ms. Tu sits in her chair, perfectly still, her eyes fixed on the door. Hours crawl by, each tick of the clock amplifying the silence in the room. Her face, in the dim light, looks painfully drawn. Her hope, so vibrant just hours ago, is now a fragile, barely flickering flame. She finally stands slowly, as if her bones ache with every movement. She wraps the untouched food, her movements mechanical, devoid of the earlier joy. Her heart sinks with each gentle movement of the plastic wrap. Her gaze falls on Nam's photo. A silent question hangs in the air. Why, my son? A sudden, desperate surge of maternal instinct compels her. She cannot just wait. She must know. She retrieves Nam's address, the one he gave her for his office. With a renewed, almost frantic determination, she clutches her small purse and steps out into the cool night. Sound of urban decay, distant sirens, faint, pulsing bass music. Ms. Tu navigates the unfamiliar, grittier parts of the city. The clean, familiar alleyways of her home give way to neon signs, dark corners, and the distant throb of music. She clutches her purse tighter, her eyes wide, taking in the unfamiliar faces and the shadowy figures lurking in doorways. She feels utterly out of place, a tiny boat adrift in a stormy ocean. Her worry escalates with every street light she passes. Oh Lord, please let him be all right. She finally reaches the address. It's not an office building at all. It's a nondescript, run-down building tucked away behind a row of closed shops. A heavy, unmarked door stands slightly ajar. Faint, loud music and bursts of muffled laughter spill from within. A wave of dread washes over her. What is this place? Sound of chaotic, drunken laughter, clinking of chips, the sharp slap of cards, a thick cloud of cigarette smoke, loud, jarring music. Ms. Tu pushes the door open, just enough to peer inside. Her eyes, initially struggling to adjust to the dim, smoky interior, widen in utter horror. The room is a chaotic tableau of vice. Men and women, faces flushed and distorted, huddle around flickering card tables. The air is thick with smoke, cheap liquor, and desperation. The clinking of chips sounds like a death knell in her ears. And then she sees him. He's at a poker table, surrounded by rough-looking men. His expensive shirt is rumpled, his hair disheveled. He's laughing loudly, a harsh, unfamiliar sound. He throws a stack of chips onto the table with a flourish, his eyes glazed over with a reckless glee. All in, boys, this is my night. I always win. He slams his cards down. A cheer erupts from his side, groans from the other. He rakes in a massive pile of chips. He doesn't even seem to notice. Then Ms. Tu overhears fragments of a conversation nearby. Two men, shady figures, are talking to Nam. So Nam, the investment fund, you got it ready. That big score you promised. We're counting on you, pal. Tonight's just a warm-up. Nam just grins, picking up a drink. Relax, man. Almost there. Gotta make sure the old lady doesn't sniff it out, eh? She's got a bit of cash socked away, doesn't trust banks. Old-fashioned. The men laugh. Nam joins in, a cold, calculating glint in his eyes that Ms. Tu has never seen before. Her hand flies to her mouth, stifling a cry. The ground beneath her feels like it's crumbling. Her son, her beloved Nam. This is him, this stranger. Her body shakes violently. The $1 million. Her life's work, it wasn't for a future. It was for this. A chilling realization. All her sacrifices, they were just a means to an end for him. Her heart, once so full of hope, is now splintering into 1,000 agonizing pieces. The world spins. Her vision blurs with unshed tears. The air in the gambling den hangs thick, heavy with the stench of stale cigarette smoke, spilled liquor, and desperate hope. The chaotic symphony of drunken laughter, frantic shouts, and the sharp, relentless clink-clink-clink of chips crashes over Ms. Tu like a physical blow. She stands frozen at the entrance, a tiny, fragile silhouette against the garish, pulsing neon glow that bleeds from the cheap beer signs. Her lungs burn. Her eyes, wide with utter disbelief, are locked onto Nam. He's still at the poker table, oblivious to everything but the cards in his hand and the pile of chips before him. His expensive shirt is rumpled, his hair disheveled, a sheen of sweat on his brow. His face, once so innocent in her cherished memories, is now contorted by greed and a strange, reckless abandon that chills her to the bone. He slams a handful of chips onto the table with a theatrical flourish, barely containing a wild, triumphant laugh. Nam, loud, slurring, his voice echoing unnaturally in Ms. Tu's ears, "Come on, baby, one more hand. This is how you really make a fortune, right? Forget the 9-to-5 grind. Forget the long haul." He glances at the men around him, seeking their approval. They grunt, chuckle, urging him on, their faces as hard and cynical as the worn cards they hold. Ms. Tu takes a shaky step forward. Her old, worn shoes scuff softly on the grimy floor, a tiny, insignificant sound swallowed by the roaring chaos. Her heart pounds a frantic, terrifying rhythm against her ribs. Each agonizing beat screams, "No, this isn't him. My son, it can't be." Her gaze cuts through the haze, spotting the two shady men from earlier. They've moved closer to Nam, their faces now grim, their voices low and menacing. They loom over him, almost predatory. "All right, hotshot, the big score, you got it. We need that investment now. No more excuses about your old lady's savings. My boss ain't patient." Nam's confident grin falters, just for a split second. A flicker of genuine fear crosses his eyes, quickly masked by a forced, brittle smile. He glances around nervously, then forces himself to appear nonchalant. "Almost there, boys. Just one more big win and we're golden. Trust me, I'm a sure thing, always have been." His words, delivered with such casual arrogance, cut through Ms. Tu like 1,000 jagged knives. old lady's savings. Her investment. A surge of cold, horrifying clarity washes over her, colder than any winter in her memory. He wasn't just gambling. He was using her, planning to take her entire life's savings for this, for a fleeting gamble, for illicit schemes with these. These criminals. Her vision blurs, not just from the suffocating smoke, but from the sudden, overwhelming wave of betrayal. Every single ache in her body, every single sacrifice she had made over decades, flashes before her eyes with excruciating vividness. The endless, scorching hours under the relentless sun, the freezing, lonely nights, the meals she skipped so he could eat, the worn clothes she refused to replace. All for him, all for this. And he saw it as mere savings to be plundered for his reckless, selfish desires. A guttural sound, half gasp, half choked sob, tears itself from her throat. It's barely audible above the din, but it's enough. Nam, mid-laugh, mid-boast, suddenly freezes. A strange, primal instinct, a chilling shift in the very atmosphere makes him turn his head slowly. His eyes, previously clouded by alcohol and avarice, now widen in absolute, gut-wrenching horror. His mother stands there. Her small, frail form seems to radiate an immense, silent force. Her face, usually so gentle and warm, is a mask of indescribable pain, a profound sorrow that ages her 20 more years in an instant. Her eyes, filled with a bottomless, silent anguish, bore into his. There's no anger, no accusation, just a devastating emptiness, a shattered reflection of his own soul looking back at him. The chaotic laughter, the clinking of chips, the blaring music, it all fades, dissolving into a muffled, distant hum, then into an oppressive, deafening silence. For Nam, the entire world goes still, save for the frantic, hammering beat of his own heart. Shame, cold and sharp as a surgeon's blade, spears through him. He suddenly sees himself through her eyes, a selfish, pathetic shadow of the son she sacrificed everything for. The illusion he built around himself crumbles into dust. Nam, voice barely a whisper, a tremor of disbelief mixed with dawning terror. Mom, what are you doing here? Ms. Tu doesn't answer. Her small frame trembles violently. She slowly, deliberately reaches into her worn purse. Her hand, shaking visibly, pulls out a small, unassuming bank book. Its pristine, crisp, its newness a stark, cruel contrast to her gnarled, weathered fingers. It symbolizes everything she is, everything she has built, every drop of sweat, every tear shed. She holds it up, not threateningly, not angrily, but with a quiet, devastating finality. The numbers on the front, clear and stark, seem to scream her pain in the sudden, suspended silence that has descended upon their small, private hell. Close up on the bank book, the figure $1 million. Boldly printed, Nam's eyes fix on the number. His face goes ashen, all the color draining away. He had bragged about it, dreamed about it, plotted for it, but now, seeing it in her trembling hand, the brutal truth of its cost, its profound meaning, hits him with the force of a physical blow that leaves him breathless. Ms. Tu's gaze never leaves his. Her lips part slightly, a soundless sigh, a silent farewell. Then, with a slow, agonizing precision that feels like pulling teeth, she begins to tear the bank book. Not a frantic, angry rip, but a deliberate, almost ritualistic tearing. Each soft RIPP, RIPP, RIPP of the paper is a tear in her very soul, a piece of her heart irrevocably shattering. The torn pieces flutter down, like lost snowflakes, onto the grimy, smoke-filled floor of the gambling den. Each piece carries a fragment of her shattered dream, a lost hope, a love betrayed. Nam, voice cracking, reaching out a desperate, pleading hand, tears finally welling in his own eyes. "Mom. No, what are you doing? Please, Mom." Ms. Two doesn't acknowledge his words, doesn't even glance at his outstretched, trembling hand. Her eyes remain fixed on him, filled with a sorrow so profound it feels ancient, a grief that transcends tears. The silence between them stretches, thick with unspoken pain and irreversible loss. Then, with a quiet dignity that belies her small stature and immense heartbreak, she slowly turns her back. Her shoulders are slumped, her back straight yet weary, bearing an invisible burden heavier than any she had carried before. She takes one slow, deliberate step, then another, walking away from the noise, the smoke, and the son who has just broken her heart into irreparable pieces. She doesn't look back. She simply walks into the shadows, leaving him to face the devastating ruins of his choices. Nam watches her go, utterly frozen, utterly helpless. The pieces of the bank book, sparkling faintly and tragically in the dim, polluted light, lie scattered on the floor around his feet. $1 million, a lifetime of love, hope, and sacrifice, irrevocably lost, replaced by an unbearable emptiness. The chaotic sounds of the den slowly bleed back into his awareness, but they feel hollow, meaningless. He is left with only the deafening silence of his mother's final, heart-wrenching departure. The city stirs, a distant, muffled hum replacing the previous night's chaotic symphony. The air is cool, heavy with the scent of damp earth and exhaustion. Dawn paints the alley in soft, melancholic grays. Ms. Tu walks slowly, her silhouette tiny and utterly alone against the waking day. Her steps, once light with hope, are now heavy, each footfall a quiet, desolate thud against the cobblestones. Her back is more profoundly hunched than ever, her frame seeming to carry an invisible, crushing weight. She doesn't look at anything, her gaze fixed somewhere far beyond the physical world, lost in a landscape of shattered dreams. She simply moves, one weary foot in front of the other, a ghost in her own familiar surroundings. She reaches her small house. The door, which she had left ajar in her desperate, frantic rush last night, is still open, a silent witness to her pain. She closes it gently, the soft click a desolate, final sound in the profound stillness of the dawn. Silence hangs heavy in the air, broken only by the faint, distant city drone and Ms. Tu's soft, almost imperceptible movements. The house feels cold, despite the morning sun now trying to filter through the grimy window. Ms. Tu sits at her worn wooden table. The untouched birthday cake remains there, a cruel, mocking reminder of the hopes she had nurtured just hours before. Her gaze lingers on it for a long, quiet moment. She then picks up the small, wrapped sentimental gift, Nam's faded childhood drawing. Her fingers, gnarled but still tender, trace the lines of the crayon. A faint, sad smile touches her lips, lingering for a breath before slowly, painfully fading. She places the drawing gently back down, then slowly, deliberately begins to clear the table. Each movement is precise, almost ritualistic, but utterly devoid of the joy and eager purpose of the previous day. The lovingly prepared food, now cold and forlorn, is wrapped with meticulous care, her hands moving mechanically while her mind is miles away, replaying the night's horrors. Her gaze falls on her meticulously kept ledger, the book that had meticulously recorded her life's singular devotion. She picks it up, her fingers brushing the triumphant final entry, the $1 million. A shudder, deep and visceral, runs through her fragile frame. She doesn't open it. The book, once a beacon of unyielding hope, is now a painful monument to a dream not just broken, but desecrated. She pushes it away, into a dark, forgotten corner of a drawer, out of sight, out of mind. Hours pass. Ms. Tu moves around the house, performing her usual, simple chores. But she is a mere shadow of her former self. The quiet, hopeful hum she used to make is gone, replaced by an unnerving silence. Her eyes, though dry, carry the immense, crushing weight of 1,000 unshed tears, reflecting an inner landscape of profound emptiness. Later, she sits back at the table, her face now etched with a new, quiet resolve. A single, decisive breath escapes her lips. She pulls out the bank deposit slip, the stark, unforgiving proof of the $1,000,000. Her eyes are clear, firm, devoid of the previous night's anguish, replaced by a steely determination. The money, once meant to be a bright, clear bridge to Nam's prosperous future, must now pave a different path. A more meaningful, perhaps even redemptive, path. The bank is a hub of hushed professionalism, a low murmur of customer activity filling the air. Ms. Tu stands patiently in line, her presence quiet amidst the brisk efficiency of the younger clientele. When her turn comes, she approaches the same polite teller from before, who offers a warm, professional smile. Bank teller, "Good morning, ma'am. How can I help you today?" Ms. Tu nods slowly. She slides a new, neatly written form across the counter. Her hand, though still calloused, is steady. "Ms. Tu," her voice quiet, but now imbued with a surprising, unwavering strength, a newfound authority. "I wish to transfer these funds." "Not to my son, to this." The teller takes the form. Her eyes scan the details, then widen slightly, a flicker of surprise crossing her composed face. The form indicates a substantial, almost incomprehensible transfer to a reputable charitable foundation that actively supports local orphanages and elder care facilities, institutions dedicated to those who, like Ms. Tu, often live on the fringes. The teller looks up, her gaze holding a silent, questioning understanding. Ms. Tu meets her look, a faint, almost serene smile touching her lips. There's no explanation offered, no need for words. The decision has been made, forged in the crucible of her deepest pain. The teller, sensing the profound weight of the moment, simply nods, a look of quiet admiration and respect passing between them. The transaction is processed, swift and silent. Ms. Tu walks out of the bank. Her steps are still slow, but there's a subtle yet profound difference now. The raw, gut-wrenching sadness of betrayal still resides within her, a deeply etched scar. But it's tempered by a quiet dignity, a serene resilience, a sense of purpose rediscovered. The crushing weight of her shattered dream has, miraculously, transformed into a lighter, more noble burden, a burden she now willingly carries for others. Sound of a phone ringing incessantly, muffled then suddenly silent, the sharp click of a message being deleted. Nam's sleek apartment, once a testament to his outward success, now looks tragically disheveled, mirroring the chaos and decay of his internal state. Designer clothes are strewn carelessly everywhere, dishes pile in the sink, forgotten. He sits on his plush sofa, head buried in his hands, his posture one of complete defeat. His phone buzzes relentlessly on the coffee table. It's his mother's old number, the one he knows she won't answer. He's called 100 times. He's left countless desperate, pleading voicemails, each one more anguished than the last. "Mom, please mom, pick up, I'm so sorry." I didn't mean any of it. I just need to explain. Please, just talk to me." He scrolls through his call log, seeing only his own outgoing calls to her, a pathetic record of his fruitless attempts. He tries her new number, which he eventually obtained from a distant, gossiping relative, but it always goes straight to voicemail, a cold, empty sound. He even drives to her old house, compelled by a desperate, fleeting hope. The alley is quiet, alive with the mundane sounds of normal life, children playing, a vendor shouting, the distant rumble of a delivery truck. Nam stands outside his mother's humble home. The door is closed firmly, irrevocably. The windows are shut. No light shines from within, no hint of the warmth and love he once took for granted. He knocks. Gently at first, a timid rap, then harder, a desperate, hollow thud against the aged wood. No answer. The air hums with mundane life around him, but to him, it's utterly silent, a vast, echoing void where his mother's presence used to be. He paces, runs a frustrated hand through his now limp hair, then slumps against the rough wall, utterly defeated. The crushing weight of her absence, her silence, is heavier than any $1,000,000 could ever be. He has lost more than money. He has lost her. Sound of children's joyful laughter echoing brightly, elderly voices chatting softly, a gentle, peaceful breeze rustling through blooming flowers. Months have gracefully drifted by since that tumultuous night. The harsh, deep lines of sorrow on Ms. Tu's face have visibly softened, etched now with a quiet wisdom rather than raw pain. She sits on a simple wooden bench in a sunlit, vibrant courtyard, surrounded by the exuberant energy of life. A group of children, bright-eyed and brimming with boundless energy, are playing nearby, their joyful shouts a sweet symphony. Close by, a few elderly residents share hushed stories, their voices low and comforting, a tapestry of shared memories. Ms. Tu smiles, a genuine, warm, and utterly peaceful smile that radiates from deep within her eyes. It's a profoundly different kind of smile than before, not one of desperate hope or anxious anticipation, but of quiet contentment and a deep, abiding inner peace. She watches the children with a gentle, loving gaze, then turns to offer a reassuring, tender hand to an elderly woman struggling to adjust a blanket on her lap. Her movements are no longer mechanical or burdened. Instead, they are imbued with a quiet purpose, a calm serenity that speaks volumes. Her life is no longer consumed by a single, all-encompassing, singular goal. The $1,000,000, once a heavy symbol of her singular devotion to Nam, has miraculously found a new, profound, and far-reaching meaning. It has blossomed into 1,000 smaller joys, touching countless lives she had never known. She volunteers regularly here, offering her time and her gentle spirit, finding not just solace, but a renewed, vibrant purpose in the simple, selfless acts of kindness. The immense, searing pain of betrayal still resides within her, a faint, deeply etched scar on her heart, a quiet reminder of what was lost. But it no longer defines her. She has transcended it. Nam stands outside his once sleek apartment building, but his posture is slumped, utterly defeated, a stark contrast to his former arrogant stride. His expensive clothes, though still designer, look visibly unkempt, crumpled, mirroring the chaos and decay of his internal world. His eyes are hollow, haunted by an agonizing regret that refuses to loosen its grip. He stares blankly at his phone, a useless device now, then clenches it in his fist in a futile gesture of frustration. He's noticeably thinner, paler, a mere shadow of the confident, self-assured man he once was. The easy charm, the swaggering confidence he wore like a shield, has completely evaporated, replaced by a gnawing, suffocating emptiness. He lost more than money that night. He lost the one person who truly loved him without question, without condition. He now understands, with a brutal, piercing clarity, the true, immeasurable cost of his choices, a realization that weighs heavier on his soul than any financial debt could ever be. He carries a burden now, not of ambition, but of profound, aching loss. Ms. Tu sits on a park bench overlooking a tranquil lake, the sprawling Saigon skyline now a soft, ethereal blur in the distance. The setting sun paints the sky in breathtaking hues of fiery orange, soft rose, and royal purple, a magnificent natural canvas. She takes a deep, cleansing breath, a breath of pure freedom. She is truly free. Free from the crushing burden of expectation, free from the suffocating weight of a singular, ultimately painful dream. Her life, though profoundly marked by immense sacrifice and a truly devastating loss, has ultimately found a path of deeper meaning, genuine purpose, and boundless, selfless love. Ms.Tuvo, her voice, now clear and resolute, infused with the profound wisdom of one who has truly lived, truly suffered, and truly learned my whole life. I thought I was meticulously building a fortune. For him. To give him everything he could ever dream of. But in the end, I realized the greatest gifts aren't found in what you give to one person for a fleeting moment of joy. They are found in what you lose and what you find by giving it selflessly to many. It's not about the millions, it's about how much heart you put into living, into loving, truly. What does this story reveal to you about love, sacrifice, and true value? Share your reflections in the comments below.